Every evening, the tiny cat stands on the old windowsill, staring outward so proudly that the broken alley feels like a kingdom awaiting rescue. To everyone else, he is only a house cat killing mice, stealing naps, and licking scraps from chipped bowls beside the kitchen wall. But inside his glowing yellow gaze, his curved tail becomes a sword, and each careful paw step sounds like armor across a castle hall. He has heard bedtime stories through thin wooden walls, and one name keeps burning inside him like a star: the brave booted cat. He does not dream of crowns, feasts, or velvet thrones, only the sacred chance to deserve a title larger than ordinary fur. When sunset reddens the window glass, his reflection no longer looks small, because he sees a sentinel measuring danger beyond the dying light. The squeak beneath a floorboard becomes a hidden threat, the wind under the door becomes an omen, and silence itself becomes a test. So he begins treating every night like patrol duty, moving slowly through narrow rooms as though the whole house depends on him. The old rug becomes a training ground, the hallway becomes a border, and the staircase shadow becomes the mouth of enemy land. Each pause before he jumps is not fear alone, but ceremony, as if courage must first kneel before it rises to fight. By daylight, nobody notices the private oath inside him, because heroes rarely look impressive while dozing in dust beside a cracked flower pot. Yet even sleep feels purposeful to him, a warrior storing strength where others see laziness, waiting for the kingdom to need him again. When he chases a mouse across the pantry, he is not hunting supper in his mind. He is defending fragile walls from invasion. When he crouches at the doorway listening, he believes unseen enemies are measuring the same darkness, deciding whether this house is weak enough. His world grows heavier with meaning, because ordinary sounds no longer pass by. They arrive like summons meant specifically for his hidden heart. He cannot bear being stroked, fed, then forgotten, because tenderness without recognition feels like a soft cage around a soul made for honor. So when the neighbor dog barks outside, his fur lifts not from simple alarm, but from fierce conviction that villains have reached the gate. He plants himself at the threshold, small body rigid, trying to widen his courage until it fills the doorway like an iron shield. No one sees nobility there, and only a cat arching dramatically at noise. But inside him, that trembling moment feels almost holy already. Because courage is rarely the absence of fear for him. It is the decision to stay present while his tiny body shakes. At midnight, he circles the sleeping house again, checking windows, corners, and narrow gaps as though danger prefers the places nobody blesses. The moon on the floor becomes his silver banner, and the dust floating there seems like proof that unseen battles have already begun. Sometimes he stops before the mirror, studying his outline until the real room fades, and only the night inside the cat remains. He straightens his neck, lifts his tail, and stares so intensely that even the reflected darkness seems willing to salute him back. Those quiet rituals are not vanity. They are rehearsal. The private way a small creature teaches himself to believe in impossible importance. Every imagined victory protects him from the ache of smallness, from the humiliating truth that ordinary life keeps placing him beneath notice. And because he believes worth must be proven, rest never fully comforts him, since peace feels temporary until he earns it again. That is why the smallest creak can pull him upright, eyes bright, heart racing, ready to turn uncertainty into another sacred mission. From the outside, it looks adorable. A little cat playing soldier in moonlight, inventing grand drama where none truly exists at all. But for him, fantasy is not escape. It is structure, the only language strong enough to organize his longing into something survivable. A kingdom gives shape to an alley. A quest gives shape to fear. And a nightly vow gives shape to loneliness too. Without those meanings, he would just be another unnoticed creature sleeping through days, while bigger beings decide what matters around him daily. So he keeps choosing the harder story, where every heartbeat can count. And even a frightened cat may stand between danger and home. He practices silent approaches beside the wall, placing each paw carefully, as if one careless sound could betray an entire sleeping kingdom. He leaps onto chairs, chests, and windowsills not for mischief alone, but to test routes, heights, and escapes any knight should memorize. Even licking old scars feels ceremonial, like polishing invisible armor before battle. Because readiness sometimes begins in the quiet care of wounds. He listens to rain on the roof like distant drums, imagining armies beyond the clouds and wondering whether this knight will finally choose him. When thunder shakes the windows, he startles, then stiffens, ashamed of startling at all. Because heroes in stories never flinch so visibly. Yet real bravery grows exactly there, in the second after fear, when he gathers himself and returns to watch the dark anyway. That private recovery matters more than grandeur, because courage becomes true only when a fragile heart chooses duty again after trembling hard. Some nights he hears laughter from another room and pauses, remembering the storybook voice that first taught him what honor could mean. He never understood all the words, only the feeling that a small creature could transform the world by refusing to stay small. Since then, every ordinary day has carried a secret ache, because he measures himself against legends while still waking beside crumbs there. He wants proof that nobility can live in dusty corners, that greatness can fit inside a body everyone expects to ignore easily. So he guards the front door long after exhaustion arrives, blinking slowly, yet refusing to leave his post before dawn softens outside. The duty is self-invented, but the devotion is real, and that difference explains why pretend missions can wound or strengthen a heart. If nobody praises him, he still continues, because some forms of longing become identity, and identity keeps moving even without applause nearby. He is not chasing adventure merely to feel special. He is chasing a role sturdy enough to hold his restless tenderness inside. That tenderness appears whenever he pauses beside the little shoes near the door, as though swearing silent protection over their absent owner. He may be alone in the hallway, but devotion still fills the frame, because love can remain present through memory, scent, and duty. That is why strange noises frighten him twice. First as threats to himself, then as threats to everything he has chosen guard. Protection gives his fear direction, turning helpless panic into movement, watchfulness, and resolve, like water forced through one narrow, shining channel forward. So he races toward shadows that wiser creatures might avoid, because proving courage matters more to him than preserving comfort tonight again. He does not understand risk like humans do, but he understands meaning, and meaning can make even danger feel necessary to face. That is the heartbreak inside his play, because what looks cute from outside is actually a desperate search for earned worth somewhere. Every patrol says the same silent prayer. Let me matter. Let me protect. Let me become the brave name living inside me. Then one night, the house feels different. Not imagined different, but sharply wrong. Like darkness itself has entered with footsteps and intent. He freezes beneath the table, listening hard, and for the first time, his heroic fantasy collides with danger that does not blink. The air carries a scent he does not know, cold and invasive, and every hair along his spine rises before thought forms. His body wants to hide, yet the knight inside him steps forward first, because this is the moment all his dreams prepared. He moves low across the floor, not gracefully now, but with trembling determination, carrying all his fear like armor under steel tonight. The strange shadow shifts, and he launches himself before certainty arrives, because courage sometimes acts during confusion, not after it clears fully. There's noise, struggle, scattering dust, and a cry from the dark, but he keeps fighting with the whole force of belief. In that instant, he is no pretend hero, no playful kitten, only a small blazing will refusing to surrender the house tonight. When the danger finally breaks and flees, silence rushes back louder than before, leaving his breathing wild and his legs unsteady afterward. He stands in the shaken room, stunned by survival, as if the story he worshipped has suddenly stepped out and recognized him. No trumpet sounds, no crown appears, and no one fully understands what happened. Yet something inside him settles at last, for real. Because proof does not always arrive as praise. Sometimes it arrives as the quiet knowledge that fear was faced and love held. He still looks small in the morning light, curled beside the wall where dust gathers and breakfast smells drift through the house. But smallness means something different now, because it has already carried bravery, and bravery changes the weight of every future step forward. He returns to the windowsill that evening, watching the alley again. Yet this time, he no longer needs imagination quite as much. The kingdom outside still looks poor and broken, but now he knows even broken places can witness real courage and remember it. His reflection in the glass still resembles a knight, though the difference is this. The cat inside finally believes it too now, not because he won some perfect battle, but because he discovered honor is simply love, refusing to retreat when retreat feels safest. From then on, his nightly patrol changes tone, holding less hunger for glory and more calm devotion to the life around him. He still listens at doors and checks the dark corners, but now he is protecting, not begging legend to notice him anymore. That subtle change heals something deep, because worth no longer depends on becoming a storybook hero before anyone allows him dignity inside. He has touched the truth himself, and the truth is gentler than fantasy. Bravery can live inside the creature others once dismissed. So when people smile at his dramatic posture, he no longer needs their understanding with the same desperate ache as before inside. He still enjoys the pose, the lifted tail, the noble stare, but now the performance rests on truth instead of longing alone. Even his naps change meaning, becoming peaceful instead of proving grounds, because a guardian who has answered danger may finally rest deeply. The old house remains worn, the bowls remain chipped, and mice still appear sometimes. But his life no longer feels embarrassingly ordinary. He has woven meaning through every dusty corner himself, and that meaning cannot be undone by laughter, neglect, or passing doubt again. In a way, the knight he worshipped was never separate from him, only a shape his courage needed before it recognized itself. The boots, the sword, the title, those were only symbols, because the real transformation happened the night he chose love over hiding. Now when moonlight touches the floor, he still walks it like silver, but his steps carry memory instead of borrowed make-believe. The alley outside may never know it was guarded by a tiny hero, and perhaps that no longer matters very much either. What matters is that he knows, in the secret center of his heart, that his courage was real when reality finally called. And from that night onward, the house is not merely where he lives, but the realm his brave little soul has earned. Sometimes a knight needs no armor, no horse, and no witness. Only a small, trembling body, carrying a heart that refuses retreat.